And it should be recording. Salve Tay. What's groovin', folks? It's like 3 a.m. right now, and I got pretty bored. Wanted to record a video. May as well. It's generally what I've been doing recently whenever I get bored is I record a video, and then I fail to remember that editing is a thing. But luckily this one is just going to be a bit of a voiceover, pretty much unedited. Now, I originally actually did this video specifically a little while ago, but when it comes to doing the voiceover for this specific thing, if you don't have a visual or a video of some sort on the timeline, then let's say it's a 10-second video. That means that your voiceover can be no longer than 10 seconds. So you can probably see where this is going. I allotted myself, I think, 16 minutes or something like that for time, because I didn't think I would be talking that long, but I love to ramble, so, this time I gave myself 46 minutes. Am I going to use all that time? Probably not. Maybe. Who knows? But needless to say, when it came to the end of the time, I stopped the recording, and then I hit the recording again after extending the visual out, and when I hit the recording, it did say it was recording, and it even had the audio bar starting to fill out, but the mic wasn't, working, so basically, I was just rambling in my car to myself for about 20 minutes and thinking that it was actually recording, but as it turned out, when I finally hit the stop button, I started playing the audio back, and after that 16-something minute mark, it just went dead, completely silent. A little bit annoying, but the big thing that happened that night was one that I was actually kind of recording as it was happening, which was kind of exciting. Unfortunately, that excitement has kind of died down, but that also does mean that luckily I'm having a more boring shift this time, which is actually a good thing. If something exciting is happening during my shift, that's generally a bad sign. For my line of work, that is. Basically, I was playing hide-and-go-seek with a crackhead who had a baseball bat and was just hitting random stuff at the hotels I was working at. So, yeah, I had to try to find him, locate him, contact the local law enforcement to have him formally trespassed, because that's not in my kind of line of work. I'm not really, I don't really have the power to do that. I mean, because, that'd be kind of scary if I did have the power to formally trespass someone. But I can give verbal warnings, I observe, I report, and if someone needs to be escorted, handcuffed, and taken off, all that stuff, I leave that to, the local law enforcement, because that's their job. That's out of my jurisdiction. I'm more the guy who's the first responder to kind of prevent and mitigate crimes, make them not as severe, or to prevent them from happening, or to report them if they do happen. So, yeah, needless to say, that was a very interesting shift. I'm not entirely sure what all points I talked about, but I'm just going to ramble for this one too, because why the hell not? What was I going to talk about? Oh, well, we'll just start talking about some random things that have been going on. First of all, with work. I'm still currently working with this, company, doing a full-time job, with odd hours that range between, right now, since we don't have any day contracts, it's more or less from 4 p.m. to 8, 9 a.m., that kind of range. That's when my shifts generally are. but I'm still trying to normalize to have a regular sleep schedule. That's why I put a tired reptile for my visual, just to kind of give you an indication as to how that's affecting my sleep schedule. Gonna have to do a few reversals, which for anyone who knows what that's like, you know how it is. But yeah, we recently picked up some of the seasonal contracts for summertime. So these store locations, very touristy kind of areas. I recently bought a new knife, most expensive one I've ever purchased. Let's just say we're dealing in the thousands, right? A couple G's at least for this knife. It's a very nice knife. I'll probably show it off in the future sometime, but for now it's whatever. A lot of people would say that I'm wasting money buying these knives and whatnot, or they'll ask, why do you even collect knives? Like, there are so many other things you can collect. Why knives specifically? Well, when I was a kid, right, I was in Boy Scouts, and having a pocket knife while going on a camping trip, you were every little boy's envy, right? If you actually had a pocket knife. But parents they're scared, they're nervous. They're like, no, we don't want little Timmy to be walking around with a knife. That's dangerous. Like, no, it's not that dangerous, okay? It's only dangerous if he has intrusive thoughts and has an open pocket knife ready and accessible in his bedroom with the door locked. That's when it's bad. But on a camping trip where he's going to be using it to whittle a stick mindlessly, thinking that it'll actually, be something useful, that's mostly what it's going to be used for. So basically fun. It was for fun. So even as a kid, the idea of having a knife just seemed like such a great thing, really. They were so practical. Now, I kind of just made fun of the practicality by whittling down on a random stick that you pick up from the ground. But there's definitely more that you can do with it. Like when you're on a camping trip, maybe the kid who's whittling a stick to make a makeshift arrow, which is not even remotely straight, and he won't even make the bow for it, right? All that stuff he's shaving off makes for good tinder. So, making a fire would be easier. I just have a little pile of wood shavings. Or maybe you're trying to cut a length of rope. Maybe you're just trying to open up some packaging. Maybe you're trying to prepare some food, and you don't have any kitchen knives. You have a pocket knife. It has like 1,000 uses, 1,001, however many, right? Just carrying one around. I have one on me right now. Most people would say, oh, for self-defense. I mean, yeah, sure, but like there are 1,000 better things you can use a knife for. Even for like first aid, having a knife is a good thing. Whether it be as simple as just cutting some gauze, or maybe something as extreme as performing like an amateur tracheotomy or whatever it's called. I'm not sure I pronounced that right. Probably messed it up, but I haven't heard the term in a while, so just random stuff like that. Hopefully having some training before just sticking your knife into someone, but yeah, so got a new knife. We picked up 8 stores for the summer for contracts, 4 of them in one job site and 4 of them in another. Like I said, very touristy kind of areas. One is pretty close by. The other one is like technically in a different city, so it's a little bit more of a drive, but whatever. It is what it is. This is kind of a traveling kind of job, pretty much. It would be nice if they had stationed us, at set locations and job sites. I mean, the one that I'm currently working at right now is like some construction site, and it's actually very close to where I live, and the company owner was all like, this is your baby, you take care of it, you're a supervisor now, so we're gonna this is your job site, right? You're gonna be the go-to guy for this place. That was a while ago. Now I'm the only shift supervisor. So you can imagine that's an interesting situation to run into. But with these new contract locations, right, it's kind of a shame because the one that's in the other city, what the city council is trying to do right now is like ban, like they call it loitering, but it's to make it so that you are not allowed to like stay in one area in public for more than an hour. So all the street performers, the street musicians, the artists, the ones who used to do like chalk on the sidewalk and make all these elaborate designs, all these very interesting things that, bring life to the area. They're just gonna try to get rid of it all. And, just looking at it from my profession, where my job is to make sure things aren't getting too rowdy, make sure that things are generally safe, secure, and no one's, trespassing and, breaking rules and all that nonsense. It's really a shame, because I love seeing that when I go there. That's what was making it my favorite location to work, even though it is further away, is that, one, it's the place where I buy my knives, the really good ones, that is, the William Henry knives, but, it's a shame they're trying to kill the whole area kind of thing. Seeing the street art last year, I'm probably the oldest employee with this company anyway. Everyone else who has come through, we got like a 90% turnover rate, even for supervisors, so that's interesting. But last year just seeing people playing saxophone, clarinet, guitar, doing vocals, singing, all that stuff, even if maybe it's done unprofessionally and it's just kind of amateurish at best, just seeing them do that stuff, putting themselves out there, you could really feel the passion that they were putting out into their work, and most of it would fall on deaf ears, but they would do it anyway, because of that drive, that fire that they had, and that's what brought life to that area, which is why I loved working there. Seeing them draw elaborate artwork on the sidewalk. And then while I was working there, people, they would just be incredibly disrespectful, tourists. And they would just walk over the chalk art, and it really aggravated me. So anytime I was around and people were walking and they were heading straight for their art, I would make them walk around, because I couldn't stand for the disrespect to the artists. But now they're trying to make it so that they're not even allowed to do that anymore, which really is a shame. But I found myself recently asking an interesting question. I remember I saw this clip once of Elon Musk saying, how everyone just says, oh, well, they will go ahead and when are they going to make things, things just automatically innovate over time. But that's not the case. People actually have to do those things. It doesn't just happen automatically. It doesn't just happen with time. Technology doesn't just improve because, another month has passed. It's because of the people who are actually doing those things. So then I asked myself the question, what if every time we thought or said aloud or were talking to someone and we said, what they should do is make this, that, or the other, what if every time we did that, we actually made an effort to make those innovations and do it ourselves, how much more progressive would, advances be? How much further along would we be, So I guess, from now on, I'm going to try to exercise that, and maybe it's not even in my field. Maybe I'll talk to a friend who knows how to do these things and just ask them about it. But, if I were sitting in a chair and I was like, man, they really should make a chair that's like this. Well, I have carpentry skills. Why don't I just make it? No hesitation. There's no reason for me to hesitate with that. If I have the ability and the idea, then by not doing it, it's like I'm robbing everyone else of what I can put out. And so you should do that too. Whoever's listening to this video, like the 5 people who are actually, listening to what I'm saying and whatnot, put your best foot forward. And every time you find yourself asking a question like that, well, what is it that you are able to do to make that improvement that you want, and then put that forth into the world, right? Learn a new skill, maybe. Who knows? Maybe you could be the next innovator. Just something kind of random to think about. Oh, also, while I was at the stores, they have, they give us, while we're working there, they give us employee discount, which is like super cool because we're not technically employees for those businesses. We're just employees of our own company, but we're contracted with them. So it's kind of weird that it applies to us, but, they're very nice people. We get like 40% off, something crazy like that. And then like 50% off for food, but they don't really have a whole lot of food anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah, I actually got a few things recently, and one of them was actually an innovation that I enjoy personally. When it comes to water bottles, right, if you have external threading on the part where you're drinking from instead of like internal threading, then what happens is when you take a drink, the water, when it comes down into your mouth or whatever and goes around the rim of the bottle, it'll travel down the threads and accumulate. And then the next time you go to take a drink, then you're spilling water on yourself from the threads, which is not something that you can just prevent unless you're constantly wiping it down, which is super annoying. But just having internal thread, it's just simple stuff like that. Just little life improvements. So I got a water bottle that not only had that, but also had like a built-in straw kind of thing. Because, I didn't want to have to unscrew the bottle every time I wanted to take a drink. Just wanted to like pop something up. So I figured the bottle that they had, it was 40% off anyway. May as well go for it. And so that's what I got. And when it comes to hoodies, I prefer the zip-up ones. In my opinion, they're just better in like every way. Because I know, for example, like when I'm sleeping, if my stomach, okay, this sounds kind of weird, but every time I wake up and I'm like wearing a hoodie or something like that, my stomach gets way too hot. My stomach gets really hot when I sleep for some reason. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's just a normal biological function, but it feels very uncomfortable. And so that's another reason why I, drink water in the morning when I get up. Speaking of which, drinking some now. But having a hoodie that you can unzip and just like, keep your arms and like the rest of you warm, and then with the added bonus of being able to put the hood up if that makes you more comfortable, but also having it to be able to open up so you can get some more air and not have to worry about your stomach overheating. I know, reptile problems probably. Um, yeah, it's just it's stupid small stuff like that. But when you improve on the small scale, maybe it can even show others. When they see that innovation, they're like, well, why don't we go for something bigger? Like, it doesn't have to be this massive change, like, oh, I'm going to make a car that actually can function on nuclear energy without, knowing anything about nuclear power, which, let's just say every time if you were to hop in a car like that, you'd probably need to wear lead pants unless you were okay with being infertile for life. But I digress. Needless to say, it doesn't have to be a big innovation, right? It can be small stuff. Like, man, I wish that when I, turned the key to my ignition, it were, I don't know, freaking, it sang Miley Cyrus to me or something stupid like that. But if you have that idea, it's not stupid, okay? I'm just, saying from my perspective, I was just trying to think of anything. Or like making a pick-proof lock that the lock-picking lawyer can't dissect in 3 seconds. Just small stuff like that. And you can make a big change from a small idea. Man, I kind of derailed there. I forgot what I was originally going to talk about. I don't know. I think I mentioned the crackhead with the baseball bat who's just like swinging around and banging on stuff. Yeah, that was recent. But, I see stuff like that, all the time. It was only really important and of note because he had a baseball bat, so he was considered to be armed and potentially dangerous. I don't think he was actually dangerous, though, considering that literally the tenants from the hotel were the ones to scare him off multiple times during the day when we're not contracted to work there, so they were able to hold to themselves pretty well, which is a good sign, But, yeah, I guess he's still on the loose, or maybe, I don't freaking know. He was there 1 second and gone the next. All I could hear was from a distance, as he was traveling along the highway, just a ding of a bat, every once in a while, and then eventually just stopped entirely. And then I was, trying to look for him for the rest of the night, just shining my flashlight, making sure he didn't return to the area. Because, you can't really formally trespass someone if they're not there. So, yeah. The cops took, I think, an hour, maybe an hour and a half to arrive after the call. Yeah, so needless to say, that's why having first responders on-site kind of security is a good thing for a lot of businesses, because, you can't always just rely on the cops to show up when stuff is actually going down. Sometimes you just need someone who's there and ready to respond, and try to resolve the issue so that you don't have to get the cops involved, right? I'm drinking more water than usual. I'm almost out already, and I have probably a couple more hours at least. Oh, that's what I was going to talk about. When it comes to, like, routines and stuff, I've adopted a new routine, and it doesn't really make sense, but it kind of does in my head. But that's really all that matters. If it works for you, even if it's weird and inefficient, if it gets you to where you want to be, that is all that really matters. If it can make you a happier person in general, that matters more than whether or not it is the most efficient and practical way of going about things, right? For the longest time, I've hated the idea of doing, like, meal prepping and planning and whatnot, where it's like you prepare a whole week's worth of food, and then you put them in these containers, and then you freeze it, and then you take it out throughout the week. Because for me, I like eating fresh stuff that I made, like, just that day, because, one, I don't have a microwave. Two, I don't like microwaves even when I had one. And three, in general, I just don't like reheating food, because to me, I feel like I would be more inclined to waste it instead of actually eating it, because then it would be unappetizing. Then, I would more seriously consider just getting rid of it instead of, finishing it all off. I'd rather just finish it all off in one sitting so I don't have to worry about that. And the guilt that kind of comes with, not eating everything on your plate, because, we all heard when we were kids, there are starving people out there, they would be lucky to have what you have, that kind of thing, Yeah, what I kind of cheated the system a little bit in my head, because instead of actually doing the meal prepping, I'm going along with my whole idea of cooking, but my goal was actually just to get fruit and veggies in my diet consistently. So what I did was, I bought like a 12-pack of those meal prepping things. This may sound kind of stupid, but to some of you, maybe it's a great idea, because, I did it, and therefore it's a great idea, obviously. But, I bought like a big, like, $10 fruit tray thing that had like a bunch of portions that you would never be able to finish in one sitting, obviously. But then I split it up into 5 portions, into 5 of those containers, and then I got like some carrots, and I portioned those out too, and then I just like closed them and put them in the freezer, and then I would take them out and bring them with me to work, because they were fruits and veggies that I knew I enjoyed. And since I am consistently eating them now it doesn't really matter what I cook, because I'm getting the nutrient. I know it sounds kind of dumb, but in my head it's like, okay, I already got the nutrients, now I can just focus on flavor. And then I end up cooking the same food I would have cooked anyway, but I cook it more frequently. So I don't know, maybe it's just like breaking my brain in order to fix it, or something like that. I don't know how else to describe it. But because I went with this, kind of inefficient way of doing it, I can feel less guilty about whatever I cook, because it's like, okay, well, I'm already getting the nutrients I need. Now I'm just needing something to like fill, So like rice and, maybe some like soy, whatever the heck, and then, just like French fries, or I don't freaking know. And then whatever else veggies that I cook with. And another great part about it is that before I would struggle with nutrients, it wasn't about the veggies. The veggies I was actually fine with. I was really good at getting them consistently, because that's pretty much like all I eat. I mean, I may be underweight right now, right? But, we all got our own weight goals, whether it be to maintain, gain, or lose, It's whatever. Person to person, body type to body type, It's whatever you want to do. But right now I'm trying to gain, and I noticed that in my diet, I was pretty much, the only fruit I would eat was when I was at work, and it was usually like one, like orange or something like that, and that was like all the fruit that was in my diet. And I was like, I don't want to die of like scurvy or something. I need some damn vitamin C. Okay, we're not singing Pink from SpongeBob, we got scurvy. Okay, if anyone actually remembers that song, by the way, my goodness, trying to find a good quality like recording of that is freaking impossible on YouTube, or maybe I'm just lazy. I only looked at the first option, so it probably actually isn't impossible. But yes, if you remember the musician Pink, yeah, she featured on SpongeBob, and she sung a song about having scurvy and how cool it was that her teeth were falling out, or something like that. That just reminds me of like, imagine like Lady Gaga or something shows up on like, I don't know, Chowder or something like that, and she sings a song about doing meth and how it's awesome, and that all her teeth are falling out and she loves it. Or that her hair is just like, she keeps pulling it out because she, keeps hearing the macaroni demon that's just like screaming, the alphabet backwards in her ear or something like that. I don't freaking know. And needless to say, it was a weird collab that Pink did with Nickelodeon, right? Just putting it out there. But Disney Channel did have one of the Paul brothers at one point before they went total crackhead energy, right? So anything's possible, really, on kids' entertainment. Man, I completely forgot what I was talking about. Oh yeah, fruit. Yeah, so fruit wasn't really incorporated into my diet because I would only really eat veggies. Not that, I was unhealthy because I didn't eat fruit, but, I wanted to have fruit in my diet. And, portioning out that fruit and just eating it at work has been working so far, at least. And then, taking multivitamin supplementation to fill in the rest, because I don't really get a whole lot of B12 by, avoiding meat entirely. So, whatever. Who needs B12? B12 is a cringe vitamin. Just kidding, you actually do need it. Make sure you get it. Otherwise, you're going to be dragging, severely. Usually you get it in, red meats and whatnot, but, I'm pretty sure you can get it in leaner meats, something like that. I don't freaking know. I don't really judge or care what you eat as long as you're healthy and whatnot, and, you're not eating other people, that would be ideal. What else is there to talk about, really? Not entirely sure. Well, I have been recording a lot recently, which is Neato Mosquito. Some videos I've recorded, I just, never bothered to put them into the editing process because I was like, I don't really like that recording. Or sometimes I will put it in the editing process and just, kind of push it through anyway because it's like, I need to get something out. And it's not because I'm trying to, maintain anything on a YouTube channel. No, I don't really care about that. It's more or less to prove to myself that I can still put videos out there, and then sometimes I compensate with, more editing, more and more and more, but, ultimately it doesn't really matter just as long as I'm satisfied with doing it, and, it's just to de-stress, and the stress that I do put on myself, I generally try to keep it a healthy stress when it comes to making videos, because it's like, okay, yes, it is for de-stressing purposes, but if it is going to be something that I'm producing and putting out there, then I want to make an effort to really put myself out there with what I do, and that's the kind of healthy stress that I'm putting on myself. It's like, okay, I haven't posted in 3 weeks, right? What's going on with me personally? Is it just that I've taken on so much more? Do I need to record another video to kind of de-stress, and then I'll be back in the mood again to kind of do that stuff? But it's not a matter of how frequently I even put them out, because I kind of break my own rules with that, even because it's not supposed to be something that's stressful, right? I give myself enough grace to say it's okay, right? It's fine that I'm not doing this. This is a hobby, something that I enjoy. If I'm pushing myself to the point that I'm not enjoying what I'm doing as a hobby, then I need to pull back a little bit, look at it and say, man, I really need to reevaluate, why I'm doing this, just remember what I'm doing this for. And, no one is here forever, so, just putting something out there that's gonna last, make a mark, whatever that mark may be. Maybe it's, I make a dumb chair or something like that, and people love it, and they go with the idea, they patent it and all that stuff, and pump it out, and then maybe 50 years from now, someone remembers, I want to research, where did this innovation for chairs come from? And then they find out the secret history, and it's, oh, it's just some random guy who is just on YouTube and he just put a wacky little gadget on a chair, and then someone else stole that idea, put a patent on it, pumped it out, right? Like Alexander Graham Bell, he was able to afford the patent for the telephone or whatever, and so he was the one who was given credit for it, right? That's probably my least favorite thing about the copyright system in general, is that even if it's not yours, you can just kind of put a patent on it if no one else has, and then say it's yours. Just screw over, the actual innovators. But, is what it is. But, even for myself, putting these videos out there, it's like taking a snapshot, basically, of a memory, a point in time in my life that I'm not going to even remotely remember, like 20 years down the road, right? If I'm even, still around, right? So I do that. I take that snapshot. I'm able to capture that moment. And then it's not a matter of, like, reliving it, but trying to remember it. Remember, where was I in this point? How far have I come? Where have I improved? Where have I changed? Where have I done this, that, and the other? Because, my memory is not the best, right? I know people will, put a recommendation for something that they may want to see me try out, and I'm like, oh yeah, sure, I'd love to try something like that. And then, I have this weird sense of guilt in the back of my head, like 6 months later, when I'm all like, I feel like I'm forgetting a video idea that I was going to do, that, like, I promised to do. But, ultimately, it's at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, right? People forget things. We're all flawed, right? We make mistakes, and we change over time, right? We're not going to remember every single detail, every single change we went through throughout our lives. Even watching some of, like, the privated videos that I have on my channel, that, they're never going to surface. I'm sorry if you're disappointed by that, but just watching them and seeing, even back then, what I was doing, and it was like, man, I really just loved doing this. And how has that love changed? Has it changed? Is it still there? Is it different somehow? Just seeing how passions and motivations change over time through a certain medium that's, constant, a snapshot that you can just return to, that idea is just mind-boggling to me, and I absolutely love it, right? And let's say down the road, right? And this may be sensitive for some people, but, what if, right? Later down the road, if I develop Alzheimer's or dementia, right? Then I won't even have the ability to remember all these things, right? And being able to take those snapshots and almost relive those moments that I can't remember anymore, that seems like just a good thing to do and have. Even if not for myself, for others, whatever the case may be, right? So, yeah, just, I don't know, maybe recently I just kind of rekindled a little bit of that passion for making videos again. Not that I was, too burnt out before, but, life is stressful, and life sucks sometimes, but, making the best with what you have, that's the goal. Nothing lasts forever, including pain, including, good things, right? In fact, it wouldn't be really, would it really even be a good thing if it didn't have like a finality to it, right? Is it really going to be a good thing if there's no ending to it, or is it just the norm? I don't know, just things to think about. Man, my car is definitely heating up. I think every time I start to just, like, use my brain, just the reptile synapses yeah, if you couldn't tell, I'm like having a mini stroke basically. Freaking not remembering my own name eventually by the end of recording this. Yeah, my car is definitely warming up. I'm definitely making a lot of body heat and therefore a lot of sweat as well. Yeah. Honestly, though, it surprises me the warmth of the reception for most of the stuff that I make, because it's like, even without that kind of reception, if it were just like completely silent on the other end, I'd still love making videos. And even with the negative comments and feedback that I've received in the past, it doesn't really affect how I'm going to conduct myself with recording and doing what I do. But just seeing that kind of response is it's a very nice feeling, because it's like a positive reinforcement. I wouldn't consider it a motivation, though, because if I'm at a point where I have to rely on others to motivate me, then I'm not at a good point. I need to be able to be self-sufficient, independent, and be able to motivate myself to make those changes. And, I'll receive feedback in my personal life, like, you really need to be doing this or that or the other. And sometimes I take it to heart, and other times it's like, okay, I'm going to blow it off because, no, I don't care what you say. I'm not doing that type of change because that's not me. Living true to yourself sometimes involves doing things that you don't like, which is a weird thing to hear, but but think about it like this. I don't like going out for a run, right? If it's humid outside, it feels gross. But then I need to realize, what are the consequences of never doing any cardio, right? Well, later down the road, it's going to end up hurting me, because maybe there are heart problems in the family, right? So not doing anything to help my cardiovascular system, that's going to hurt later down the road. So doing those things that you may not like but are good for you. So like all sorts of, like, developing healthy habits, right? Do you think I love scarfing down a freaking bag of carrots? No, obviously not. But the idea of being healthier and eating more will help me get to my more long-term goals. So even though I may not enjoy it, I may not like it per se, that's not why I don't do it just because it brings me pleasure or whatever. Doing it because I know it's going to benefit me. So and that's kind of where some of the conflict comes in when it comes to, like, employment, for example. I've talked to a friend recently about it, but pretty much any job I've ever worked, I always end up just complaining, all the time about it, right? Because it's fun to rant for me. It's just a habit that I've developed. I love ranting about random things, because it gets stuff off my chest, kind of gets that stress, kind of pushes it away. But when it comes to employment, it's like, okay, so I have this job and I need the pay, but I don't like the job. Then it's like, I hear all the time, it's oh, well, if you don't like your job, then just quit. And it's like, okay, that's not easy to do, though, right? Because if you rely on something that you don't like, then you're already in a bad and difficult position if you want to make the change that you want. Trying to get a new job lined up, especially with how saturated, the whole market is. in some cases, it almost feels impossible to get a new job. So leaving the stability of what you have can be exceptionally difficult. Even if you know that it's what you should do. And you know, you have this mindset where it's like, okay, well, I may not like it, but I gotta do it. I gotta do it. But sometimes that can be a crippling ideology if you keep it ingrained where it's like, I can't leave because I need XYZ, because I rely on the thing that I hate. But you shouldn't rely on something that you don't like, because that will never let you be happy. So, you know, needless to say, I've just been trying to look for a new job, obviously. But, you know, that's the big news, I guess. Just something better than what I'm currently doing. If I could make a living off of YouTube, I don't know. That would be neat, but I don't even know if that's a profession I would want. I would want maybe something with carpentry or something. Maybe. Who knows? Maybe later down the road I'll become a carpenter's apprentice, and then I'll start my own practice, maybe make my own furniture and all that stuff, and sell it for, you know, local creator costs or whatever. But anyway, that's pretty much actually around the end of my time, so before I get cut off, I'm going to go ahead and do a little outro. Remember to do whatever makes you happy, and hope to see you in the next one. Ta-ta for now.